You're listening to 106.9 Tune FM here on the home of UNE's student-powered radio. Today, we are talking horror again with the wonderful Dr. Bridgette Glover. This time, Del Toro's Frankenstein, which is a recently released adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic novel, available on Netflix, and it's absolutely brilliant. So I'm a big fan. Bridget's a big fan.
Big fan. When you asked if I wanted to come on, it was like, obviously, I loved it. And I was not necessarily expecting to love it either. I kind of went in cold, as you probably should with adaptations, because you just never know. But oh my gosh, exceeded expectations.
Absolutely.
Loved
it's been
it.
years since I've read the novel.
Yes, guilty also.
And I think that's the beauty of how Del Toro works as well, is he takes things and makes them his own in a really wonderful way. But I think this might, outside of Pinocchio, might be one of his first adaptations. I guess Hellboy counts as an adaptation because it was originally comics.
No, that's true. Was Pan's Labyrinth?
I don't think so.
Adaptation?
I'm not sure.
That was his own? That's pretty impressive. But yeah, I'm sure you're right. But when I was on here last, we were chatting about the kind of renaissance we're seeing with the original horror monsters. So it's really interesting that it's come out sort of, around this period of Nosferatu, and obviously we're having Werewolf coming back, and there's always a reason why we go back to these classics as well. So it's always of a moment, and it will be interesting to talk to you about what this film is kind of telling us about our current moment as well. I'm really happy to get into that. But yeah, what were your original thoughts, Ash?
The first time I watched it, I just was in silence the whole time, except for being like, oh my God, did you notice this?
Yeah.
Or I think the first thing I really picked up on was the colors. And I think that's something that Guillermo Del Toro spoke about, was that each of the characters has their own color.
Yeah.
A color palette. And I spent a significant time trying to figure out what the colors represented necessarily.
Yeah. Yes. So obviously, I think I'm just thinking back to Victor. We were looking at a lot of blues and reds, right?
It's largely red, yeah,
Yes.
and then black and white. And
Yes.
I think it's a really interesting look, because when we first see him, he's a child. And I feel like before we go any further, this is going to contain a lot of spoilers if you've not seen it. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come and listen to this.
Great idea.
Okay. Warning out of the way. But yeah, so when we first see him, he's a child, and he is dressed almost largely in black and white. And the red around him is his mother, who is played by Mia Goth, who also plays Elizabeth.
Yes. Fantastic. I think the
choice of casting in that way.
And Mia basically has eyebrows as one character and then doesn't have eyebrows for the other, and it works.
But I also found out they used a prosthetic to make her look more similar, prosthetic nose, to make her look a little bit more similar to Oscar Isaac, who plays Victor Frankenstein.
Yes.
And so she's entirely red.
Yeah, that shot of her on the stairs
with the curtains.
Yes,
yeah,
it's just blowing. Oh my gosh, just
and
art.
I think the way that, because I noticed this on the second watch around, is that the angel of death.
Yes.
I think Victor actually refers to, and I will say her for the angel because I feel like that just sort of makes sense, is not the angel of death. It's the dark angel.
Yes.
I think. But her visual appearance and the colors mimics that shot of Claire, who is the mother, on the stairs that first time, the way the fabrics are in motion and the mask and everything.
Absolutely.
And it's not until she dies that we start seeing red on Victor. He starts wearing the neck tie, and his gloves are red. And I think he's almost always in gloves the entire time that we see him. I think
so too. And, obviously Del Toro was really specific about costume design as well. But I mean, we could read into that as well as just that sort of protection. And he's working a lot with his hands as well. And there's
Mhm.
obviously that scene with his father where he stops hitting his
Yes.
hand
And starts
because
hitting his
that's his
face.
instrument
Yeah.
from then on. And yeah, so it's interesting. It's kind of this symbol of protection, I suppose. But yeah, with the angel, it's obviously, like you say, we're trying to decipher which angel, but he's speaking to her like he's speaking to a mother, right? Like it's kind of,
And he kneels at his mother's feet in a
yes.
very similar way to how he kneels at the angel's feet.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, you're right. That kind of insertion of red from then on is really powerful. Um, but I think as well, I'm thinking of Elizabeth. There's a lot of green and
Greens and blues and yellow.
yes,
Very,
like golds. Yeah,
I
nature.
did not look up the costume designer's name, but she is phenomenal.
Mm,
There is, in fact, Frankenstein, the Anatomy Lesson, which is a behind-the-scenes deep dive. But Elizabeth's costumes are all very beetle-like.
yes,
Her
yes, yeah.
headpieces mimic sort of the way that a beetle's horns.
Yep.
I think horns are the correct term. I'm not a zoologist or
No,
an
but that's what they look
insectologist.
like. They were
Yeah,
so it's Kate Hawley.
Kate Hawley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. It's kind of she's like this beautiful insect all the time. And also quite sheltered as well by her costumes, which I
Yes.
loved. Lots of veils and yeah, lots of kind of hat pieces that just shelter her. Because she's incredible. She's incredibly complex, right? She kind of, and Mia is integral in that. She is at once like vulnerable, but also it has this sight through everyone and is so clever. And there's obviously that scene where Victor is kind of following her.
Oh, in with the confessional booth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, we think that he's about to bamboozle her, but she's already so on top of it and, like 5 steps ahead of him. Really intelligent and just incredibly empathetic. And, yeah, whenever she's sort of engaging with the monster, and are we calling him the monster in this or is he the creature?
I feel
can't
like
recall.
I don't, because it's interesting. I don't think he's given a name in the
No.
original books. He's not even really given a name in this film, but he is often referred to as Adam,
Mm.
that I've seen
Mm.
online. And the other aspect of that is that the book, when it was first released, was actually called Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus.
Yes, exactly.
I think in this case, actually, Prometheus is intended to be Victor.
Yeah,
Giving,
exactly.
giving life and doing this sort of thing.
Yep.
But there's a maternal instinct, and I don't know if it's just maternal.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
in Elizabeth's character
Yeah.
towards the creature, which I think is a very stark contrast to how Victor interacts with him, which goes
Talk
back
about it,
to
please.
his father.
Yes.
Because, and this is something that I really thought about, Victor is obsessed with life. And part of that is linking to his mother's death while giving birth to his younger brother. But he also is sort of stuck in that kind of innocence. We only ever see him drink milk.
Yeah.
For example.
Wow, great point.
He's obsessed with pregnancy. He always has that little ivory pregnancy puzzle.
Yep.
And I think that ties back to the black and white because there's that very stark contrast in thinking. It's the black and white thinking and then the red appearing after his mother Claire dies, effectively marking him with that.
Yeah.
But I was doing a bit of background research on the novel, and I will say full transparency, my background research consisted of reading Wikipedia
100%.
and double checking things. But it's believed so that Mary Shelley had 2 children, to my knowledge. The first one died in infancy.
Mhm.
And it's thought that she was probably nursing her second child when she was first writing Frankenstein in 1816. But that second child is thought to have died by Frankenstein's publication in 1818.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And there's a lot of, when you look at I think Del Toro really is the perfect person
Me
to
too.
have adapted this.
Yep.
Because there's the nuance of it. But the linking of life and pregnancy is very much linked throughout to Victor.
Yes, I agree. I think there's a lot of ways that we could interpret it as well. And, you know, I think when I studied this as a high schooler, obviously it's all about science, right? Like the book, when it came out, it was dealing with, you know, it was just after the intellectual enlightenment, and just around the time that the Industrial Revolution was kind of picking up, right? So it was looking at a lot of bigger questions, but I think when we adapt it, you have to kind of incorporate our current concerns. And I do see a lot around, and, you know, you can take it or leave it, but obviously we see a lot of things around AI. We see a lot of things around disability, but I also am very interested in this kind of debate around pro-life, pro-choice, all of that stuff around the responsibility of creation. And I do think that we can kind of look at Victor through a lens of that innocence that you talk about, and let's look at it through, like, he's incredibly optimistic about what he has potential to create, but it's struck as soon as the creature doesn't really
it's not the
follow
perfect
along,
yeah,
with his milestones, right? He's not, you know, Victor presumes disability, essentially. And once that's done, he really just disavows of his own creation, his own son, instead of really looking into the debates and responsibilities around whether or not he should be creating, period. So, yeah, I really like this idea of particular points in the film where you can kind of see that disillusionment in Victor. And it's heartbreaking. You say that you watch this film in silence. I think I sobbed more often than not. It was just, and, you know, we can talk about Jacob Elordi, but the way that Del Toro has kind of infused that creature with just so much human depth.
But also the beauty. And I think that's what a lot of older adaptations forget, is that the creature was always intended to be beautiful. It is, I mean, there's that whole thing, who is the monster and who isn't in Frankenstein, that, you know,
right.
The idea that actually, you know, Victor started as or didn't begin as the monster and then became the monster.
Yes, yeah.
By the end. But he specifically chose his specimens initially to be the most beautiful specimens that he could find. This shifts a little bit in this, I think, of choosing the flesh that works best and working on a larger scale to make it easier. That's one of the discussions that he has with her Hollander.
Yeah.
Who, Christoph Waltz, fantastic choice for that.
So interesting. It's so charismatic. And yeah, spoiler alert, but it was syphilis, right?
Yeah, syphilis, which I think is...
I didn't see that coming.
I also...
I think that's not in the book, right?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is that having not read the novel in quite a while, there's a lot in terms of the adaptation where I don't know if I can speak on from going back to someone that I really like, Dominic Noble, who does like the loss in adaptation kind of thing. So maybe he'll come out with a really great episode on this.
Yeah. Good shout.
One thing that I noticed with her Hollander is that he's wearing yellow gloves and the soles of his shoes are yellow, and he specifically avoids... There's a great close-up scene of him hopping over a puddle of blood
Mhm.
as he's entering Victor's
Mhm.
initial laboratory.
Yep.
So he's someone who doesn't want to get his hands dirty.
No.
He doesn't want to be involved in
Yeah.
everything, but he has a fascination with death and perfection, and photography.
Yes.
But yellow is a color that I always associate with fear.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's interesting that yellow, even if it's not a massive palette of his, is the first things that we see about him. We see a yellow hand in a glove, and then we see the yellow soles of his shoes.
Yes, totally. And he is written as a person of wealth. And so I do wonder if it's kind of initially we're meant to be seeing it as an allusion to gold. And we realize, once we figure out his true intentions, that it has always represented fear, hidden by wealth. He can push as much as he has, but essentially he just does not want to go through that process that he talks about of the syphilis decline.
Which, I mean, Victor describes that. That's kind of...
Oh,
I mean, even his death scene is
oh my
not
God.
like... Oh, that was a bit hard to watch.
That was shocking. Like I said, I really did not see that coming because obviously he's not being faithful to the text there, which I am not. I don't care about fidelity.
Yeah.
Anyone who's doing Com 387 screen adaptations will be getting very familiar with this debate around fidelity and faithfulness and whether or not you need to be slavishly faithful to the original text, the canon. And I don't care. I really enjoy an adaptation that will bring in new ideas and things that are contemporary to our time. So and whatever else they want to bring in, I'm there for it. I can discern whether or not I enjoyed it at the end, but I don't mind. But with this, I think what was interesting was that it kind of brought in something unexpected around and potentially, I guess, leveled up the stakes.
It definitely raises the stakes because this isn't just his benefactor. It's his brother's fiance's uncle. And someone who's deeply entwined in their life.
Yeah.
So, and obviously there's... I like that they've made Victor's Oedipus complex a little bit more overt.
Yes.
In
time.
his obsession with Elizabeth. And it's the ownership of her, in a way. The idea of owning that. And her Highlander actually mentions it in a scene where he says, "I'll give you Elizabeth."
Yeah.
As if, she's a commodity to be passed around. I think she's aware of that. There's a fascinating scene, and I literally sat there and just wrote this whole thing down.
Did some close scene analysis.
There's a scene where they've caught a butterfly and she brings it in, and he's like, Victor's going, "I love you," effectively, be mine. And she's like, "I don't think you do. I don't want to. This is not it."
Yeah.
But she's sitting there leaning on the table, and she's watching this butterfly. But in talking about the butterfly, she's actually really talking about herself.
Absolutely.
And part of that is what I didn't get the whole quote, but I think that scene is just a wonderful showing of self in introspection and an acknowledgement of her role in life and in society. But she says that the butterfly is a beautiful creature, but she has a fascinating lack of choice.
Yes. Oh my gosh, heartbreaking.
And this whole scene, it's, the butterfly is, she's so closely related to insects and shown to be with insects. So in talking to that butterfly, she's really talking to herself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really speaking to Mary Shelley as well, which I love Del Toro for because, even I'd love to chat to you about that final closing shot with the quote from Lord Byron.
I just think it's so ironic that there's a quote from Lord Byron.
We can chat about that. But obviously, yeah, she wrote this book incredibly young.
She was just 18.
Just 18, right. And I mean, yeah, like obviously Gothic literature is really fascinating in terms of exploring that the role of woman, the fear of woman, the unknown. And I think as well, when she's looking at that book of insects, and she's so fascinated in learning about them. And I think it really speaks to the lack of knowledge that we had then around, the female body, female reproduction. Like everything was starting to happen. But I mean, even as of 2025, there is still so much we don't know. So truly 16 when she's writing it. Yeah. You can just imagine. But I think it's really insightful just showing her how earnestly she's trying to learn about these creatures because she wants to learn about herself and about her own intricacies, but also her role, her agency and lack thereof. It is very special. But yeah, there's definitely been some pushback to finishing off with the Lord Byron quote, because obviously I think refresh
Lord
my memory,
Byron is
but
an interesting figure.
yeah. But I apologize to all the experts, but they were lovers.
I don't know.
Okay.
So
they were writing this all together.
They were writing together.
Haunted ghost stories.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she was 18, and this was, I did a slight deep dive. It was in the year, 1816 was considered the year without a summer. The year prior, Mount Tambora had erupted, and most of the northern hemisphere was actually in something of a volcanic winter.
Yeah.
So there wasn't any light, really. They couldn't do anything. So they were in a villa, I think in Bath, somewhere
that's
else.
Right.
It was Mary Shelley. It was Percy Bysshe,
right.
Shelley, who was her lover at the time and future husband. John Polidori or Polidori, and Lord Byron. And Lord Byron is something of a polarizing figure in romantic circles.
Right. So...
I'm pretty sure he was bisexual, and he was a bit of a rake, to use an old-fashioned term. I guess.
Love it. Okay, so why use that quote? Like,
I guess I suppose
incredible.
It's linking it to the fact that this was conceived in it was a competition. They were stuck inside. It was a competition. Who can write the best horror story?
Yes.
And Lord Byron created a vampire story, which is how he got the vampire. I'm not sure what Percy Shelley wrote, but I think Frankenstein really kind of defined the genre. And it took Mary Shelley a lot longer than everyone else to come up with her idea.
Yes.
Everyone else had sort of finished it and had written it, and she was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
She had to each morning say, no, I haven't come up with anything.
That's so beautiful.
And, then her work is the one that's most remembered.
Absolutely. And, so do we think it's kind of this allegory around
what was
potentially
the
like
quote?
That? Yeah. Let's look it up. But is it relevant to that kind of removal of women's voices?
Yeah.
I'd love to know what Del Toro's choice was around that, what his decision was.
Yeah. So the quote is from apparently Childe Harold's Pilgrimage by Lord Byron. And it is, and thus the heart will break, yet brokenly live on.
Oh.
And I actually think it really captures the essence of the film really, really well. It's the other quote that I really loved from Victor at the very end when talking to his creation, who he does finally call his son, was, while you are alive, what recourse do you have but to live?
Yes, exactly.
It's
that perseverance.
There's so much there, and I think it really links back to what the creature was saying as well, which is, I'm obscene to you, but to myself I simply am. And I don't know if these quotes are taken verbatim from the novel.
No.
But that, I think, really captures why so many people who are queer, who are disabled,
Mm,
who feel othered by
exactly.
society at large really connect to horror and to characters like the creature. Because, yeah, maybe you're
Yes.
different to everyone else, but you're just you.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, there are so many key themes in Frankenstein, but obviously it is that idea of difference and prejudice. And we can. I think I was chatting about it when I was here last about obviously representation is important and empathetic representation, but there is so much to be said around reclaiming a character that is, depicted to be this monster, but there are so many threads within that resonate to people who have experienced some kind of stigma that to them is their own experience and they wouldn't know anything else and they are choosing to continue. But I think it's really beautiful about sort of gothic fiction as well, is that so much of it is around um, stories that they raise more questions than provide answers. And I really love that ending around he just walks out and he just
And faces the
continues.
sun.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
it's so, what is he going to do next
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Yep.
But there's also so many layers to it. When we first see Frankenstein with his creation, he's showing him the sun.
Yes.
And he's standing in the room going, yes, that's the sun. Yes, they're holding their arms out, embracing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And up until then and after that, the creature's locked away. He's
Yes.
in the darkness.
Yeah.
Victor kind of sort of hides in the dark as well a little bit after that. But in the original novel, I actually think the creature just wanders into the Arctic and is lost.
Yeah.
So there's that very intentional recognition of facing the sun, and I think that also represents facing life,
Yeah.
facing the light,
Yeah.
all of that there.
Yeah, exactly. And there's obviously a whole sequence around him, the creature befriending a blind man.
Yeah,
And
that whole just ruined me.
oh my God. God, yeah, I can't. But essentially it's the only person that he interacts with that,
Other
does not,
other than Elizabeth just treats him like a
well,
person.
treats him, yeah, exactly, but doesn't can't see him, right? So to him, the creature is just there
He's
is no
just a
sun.
guy.
Yeah, there is no sun on him. He does not have to hide. He's just there. And I think it's so beautiful because it gives the creature this kind of insight into the tragic reality around why Victor kept him out of the sun, in darkness, away from people, because once he is exposed to hunters and whatnot, people are immediately trying to kill him.
And there's so much connection to the horrors of war.
Yeah. Yeah.
Originally, he was not made from bodies from a battlefield. But he does say to the old man, I am a child of a charnel house. And I think what I really like is, and this goes back to the novel as well, how well spoken, actually literate the creature is. He is poetic in how he speaks and how he tells his story. And I think war is something that obviously is really, and particularly the horrors of it, is really strongly felt in this day and age. We've got what's happening in Sudan, Congo, Gaza.
Oh my gosh.
Just generally everywhere. But it's also something that Del Toro goes back to a lot. Pan's Labyrinth was... I mean, I would say that's sort of his seminal text.
I think so.
Like, it was set
That
at the
put him
height
on-
of
yeah.
the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah.
And also looked at the horrors of that as well. And to have the creature be born over a battlefield of various different pieces of bodies and people who died fairly senselessly,
Yes.
it's also forcing people to because they are confronted by him. They then have to confront the horrors of not just what he is, but where he came from.
What they've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of, even extending that to why am I looking at this person that, allegorically I've killed, right? Why am I still here? Like he's so confronting in so many ways. But I think what's really interesting is how Del Toro did not make him as gruesome as he has been in previous adaptations, right? He doesn't have these
There's just such
bolts.
a beauty to it.
There's one Frankenstein adaptation where he's got stitches all over his face, and there are just so many avenues for them to create him as this really horrific thing to look at. And of course, casting Elordi is really, really clever.
I think Jacob Elordi is an absolute masterclass in embodying character in this.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what other roles he's been in. I know he will be in Wuthering Heights, which I will reserve judgment for that mess of an adaptation. Maybe we should do an episode on that.
I'm gonna watch.
I have to.
Yeah.
But I was listening to Elordi talk about this, and he actually studied, and I do not remember the name of the dance, but a type of dance embodying dead bodies.
Oh my gosh.
And if you watch the creature, he does move with grace, but he also moves with just like kind of sheer innocence.
It's very childlike. And I have a toddler, and what was really interesting was watching, Jacob, basically he does things with his hands that are really, I'm trying to do it in front of Ash right now, but he's constantly doing movements with his fingers that are extremely,
like fine motor skills.
Yes, he is trying to build and reach these milestones, right? That obviously toddlers have to reach at a certain time. And it really, really struck a chord with me in that sense, because he's essentially not meeting his milestones as quickly as Victor requires. But just the way that we then cut to the creature's story, and we see him grow, and like you said, his language develops incredibly, and it's because he builds his language in a safe space with the blind man. He's watching on for a while, and then he's part of the lessons, and it shows you that kind of idea of how much growth can be fostered when you are looked after, and when you are loved and, accepted where you are, as opposed to, this kind of constant pathologization of humans and where they should be and what we expect of them. And going back to obviously last time I chatted with you about disability, it's like this idea of, this is just him. And had Victor recognized that his part to play was quite enormous, not being so angry with him and abusing him because all he could say was Victor. That makes me cry. It was so devastating, because Victor was essentially his world.
That's all he knew.
And
he might have been the body of a man or 10 men, but this was a child.
Yep.
If you look at Yorgos Lanthimos with Poor Things,
right,
it's very similar in that, where Willem Dafoe's character, who's just called God, I think, takes the brain of a child and puts it in the body of its mother who died while pregnant with the child. Very gruesome, and very grim, but suddenly it's a child in a fully adult body, and you watch as she evolves and grows, and Emma Stone does a wonderful job as she becomes an adult while already being in an adult's body. And it's the same with the creature in this. This is a child. And it's not until Elizabeth takes his hand and puts it on her throat that he learns another word.
Yes. Oh my God, that scene. But essentially I think it's really it's interesting thinking about how much humanism was, provided to the creature. And I'd love to know your thoughts about whether you felt that same kind of complexity was given to Victor, because in the book he is
He's kind of just like a med school dropout.
yeah, and obviously like we get quite a bit of his backstory in the film, and we do in the book as well, but I don't know, he really was monstrous in the film. And so angry. But I think for more sort of on a deeper level, we can pull that apart and, kind of connect the dots about how he got there.
Because he was abused as a child. Like that, we see that on screen.
Right.
And I have no doubt that even though it wasn't depicted, if we're, looking into it, it probably got worse once his mother died and once his younger brother was born.
Yes, totally.
And he was then, he's desperate for approval. He's desperate to surpass his father. He gets kicked out of med school for something that's called unholy. And I want to come back to that because I deeply, deeply analyze the scene of the creature's resurrection.
How crazy was that? Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's just, this is an angry, wounded child who hasn't been given the time to heal.
Yes. And
so he becomes an angry, vindictive adult.
Exactly. Goes on to continue that cycle of just generational abuse, essentially. But yeah, I thought that there were starker binaries in terms of Victor and the creature and good and bad. And obviously the creature does bad things, but because of the way that we watch him, grow and we watch him just be so childlike, I guess we have more compassion. Whereas for Victor, it's very much like, why are you doing this? And we have to work harder to kind of look back and look at what made him that way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But yeah, it definitely for me, just looking, before we go back to that resurrection scene, it's making me feel all kinds of ways about AI and just our contemporary scientific, points where we're right on the edge of destruction.
What's happening? Yeah, Skynet.
Oh my gosh. Really, really, really scary. Just makes me think about. And I actually watched an interview the other day where someone was talking about, it was one of those stupid podcast bro things. And they were talking about how a billionaire friend of mine
casually.
Yeah. He literally said a billionaire friend of mine said that, the CEO of an AI thing is lying to us about how bad it's going to get. It's going to be disastrous. And it's like, yeah, they just keep it. These people with money and science, they come together and they just keep it.
Yeah.
All because they want to play God. And yeah, it's hard to separate the stories.
Absolutely. And I think Del Toro does that really well. Yeah. And I think as someone who is not religious in any way, I was literally raised quite a-religious, so I know the spark notes of the Bible. But I think from appearances, Catholicism and religion does play a massive role. And I think in a way, the creature takes on the sins of the father. He starts embodying Victor's rage and his own rage because he wants to be seen and he wants to be heard and he wants to be acknowledged. But I think there's this just great dichotomy between the tribunal calling what Victor first created and presenting unholy, and then the resurrection scene of the creature in which he is literally depicted like Jesus on the cross.
Yes.
He is crucified on this thing.
Yeah.
And he has stigmata. There is the rib wound, which actually appears multiple times.
That's so true.
And there's also the scene where he injures his hand.
Yep.
And then miraculously heals.
Oh my God.
It's I think it's a little like okay, it's not a little bit over. It's Del Toro. Everything's over.
Yeah. He's
But
making it super clear for us.
It's also something that you wouldn't notice because the rib wound is. He's got wounds all over him.
Like you say as well, it's not all at once.
Yeah.
Like these kind of, it's like this overarching motif, but it's happening in it dissected. And so you finish that film and you kind of put them all together and you're having that realization. But yeah, he's not that much on the nose that he's putting it all together. So that's really interesting. But yeah, just thinking back to also what you say about kind of absorbing the sins of the father, like sorry to make it about girls, but
no, please I think
it just makes me think
Frankenstein
of women.
should absolutely be about women. And I think because Victor's drive is about wanting to create life. This is this holy thing that only women or people with uteruses can do.
Yes.
And at the time, that's the only way it happened.
Exactly. And just that idea of I've created this thing, but parts of it are unknown to me. Parts of it are I cannot connect science to it yet. You are therefore shameful. You know, we need to keep you private. Like it's so, I'm sorry, but the parallels to just womanhood are so overt. And I do love as well that it's written by a woman. And actually, I don't know if you're on TikTok, but so many, or even Twitter, so much discourse around, you know, again, these kind of film bros talking about, you know, what Frankenstein's about and how it's a man's story, and people just calling them out, going, it was written by a teenage girl.
It was written by a teenage girl who suffered some pretty horrific, like her first child died very, very young. Her sister took her own life around the same time. Her second child died.
Yeah.
She was a writer in a time when women writers were historically overshadowed or had their work stolen by their male peers.
Exactly.
Yes, Frankenstein is about a man, but it is a deeply feminine story.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad we're on the same page. I just really, I thought, and I guess that's as well, that goes back to that final quote from Byron. It's, you know, people going, why? But I would love to read a little bit more and get Del Toro's perspective on it, because he may very well be speaking to that idea of it being a feminine story and kind of the role of man and their final words and so on. So, I won't sort of put my final stamp on it because I don't know yet. We can come back for another chat, but
absolutely,
yeah,
it's because
there's so much to unpack.
So much to unpack. Like we're nearly at an hour now, and I already feel like we haven't even touched on everything that there is to touch on about it. Like the actual adaptation itself, the process of it, and I do not remember the actual technical term for the technique used in Shelley's Frankenstein. I've been calling it a sandwich because it starts and ends with them in the Arctic.
Yes.
So it is circular. It is a circular narrative in a way, but it goes Arctic, Victor's tale, the creature's tale, and the Arctic.
Yeah.
And the movie follows that same path.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Yep.
And so you can understand where I come to. It's a sandwich.
It's totally a sandwich.
But I am certain there is an actual technical term. So if you are writing an essay on Frankenstein, do not say that it's a sandwich.
Oh, listen, we've
frame.
made plenty of disclaimers. We are not we're not gothic fiction experts. We like chatting about film, but yeah, if you guys are listening to this, like write in, let us know what we're talking about with sandwiches. Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, it's I do quite like that it followed that structure as well, because I was able to, and this is a terrible cinematic experience, but I was able to pause at the end of Victor's and kind of regroup, because like I said, I was sad.
Absolutely.
And then continue, which sort of allowed that kind of I suppose digestion that you can't have in the cinema. And that's not to say that I'm not a cinema gal. I absolutely am. But with such epic tales like this, there is something to be said about
being able to just breathe for a moment.
Like a book, like being able to put the book down and just go, wow, what did I just read? Like you have to sometimes be able to take a pause. So yeah, I did love that. And yeah, going back to the black and white, there was a scene in the creature's perspective that was black and white. It turned black and white briefly. Do you remember that?
No.
When he's in the snow, I think.
I do not remember that at all, actually.
He's escaped. And
is this when he's dying for that second time?
He does die.
Yeah.
Is it the second time? I can't recall. I think it's the first where he's at the house
with after the wolves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the wolves. Was that the second time he died? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like he's in the snow, and I'm certain it turns black and white for a moment. So I suppose it's speaking to that idea of death, and then returns to color. But yeah, I'm such a fan of anything in terms of mise en scène by Del Toro. It is so spectacular.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely worth a rewatch and another rewatch just to kind of pick it apart, because in terms of, directorial decision making, Del Toro is someone who is so purposeful. Every decision has been made
has a purpose.
With purpose. So it's not something that you and I reading into this and doing close analysis. It's not.
This isn't the curtains are blue.
No.
Moment. This, and I think that's the thing with cinema and with auteurs is everything is deliberate.
Yes.
Every framing, every shot, every color, every costuming choice, it is deliberate. And you have to be deliberate with cinema because, you have to build it from the ground. I do love that they've used very little CGI in this. Almost all of the sets were built.
I know. I saw some stupid review where they were talking about how overexposed it is with the CGI. I was like,
there's one scene I can pick, and that's when the batteries fall down.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. Honestly, I think we're losing our media literacy skills about being able to determine what is what because of how much media we are consuming that does use things like that. And it's even starting to use AI, which is disgusting. But yeah, so much of it is real, which I think even coming back to the creation scene, which by the way, in the book is like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
In the film, he really, that is like his playground. And the actual tactile sets does so much for the viewer because it's basically allowing us to immerse ourselves, which I'm sorry, but we're not able to do that as much with CGI heavy cinema. And in particular, we're even
looks too clean.
Oh, it's the digital. It's such a bummer. So yeah, I do really appreciate Del Toro putting in like so much into that practical set. Because yeah, like I don't know if you've noticed, but even in like cinema at the moment, the use of digital film is kind of taking away that deep focus, right?
Yes, so I watched a whole I think you liked it when I shared it on Facebook, actually. The YouTube video essay.
Right, okay, yeah. So, yeah, we talk about this all the time in Com 101 if anyone's doing that at the moment. But deep focus is essentially where you have a lens that allows you to see everything that's at a distance and close up. And because we're kind of moving away from that, it doesn't allow you to kind of step into the film as easily. And so I was really I've been watching cinema a lot lately, just kind of keeping an eye on that. And I do feel like Del Toro is definitely, we're getting a lot of shallow focus, but he's definitely dedicated to that kind of original cinematic sensory experience. So yeah, I was fully in the world, which
Absolutely.
I really appreciated.
And the composition, because now you're saying it, yes, there is a lot of shallow focus, but it feels less like, I think a lot of films, and I'll save my rant for films for a later date. It's not like there's just two characters talking to each other and they're just on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
The composition, there's one scene that I can think of that really follows the golden ratio that I like, which is, and it's reversed a little bit. I don't know if you can reverse the golden ratio, but it's the creature immediately after he has like dragged himself from the water after plunging following the explosion, and he's in the foreground, sort of to the left of the screen, and then the composition draws your eye up to the ruins of the tower and the sun and the water behind him.
Oh my God, stunning.
And there's just, look, if this doesn't win an Oscar, I'm going to riot.
Listen, speaking of, I saw this morning that Oscar Isaac has been nominated for lead actor for a Golden Globe, and I'm scanning that post looking for Elordi.
Jacob Elordi deserves some incredible recognition for this. This man got up at like 2 a.m. for 10 plus hours.
It was 12 hours, I read. Getting all of his prosthetics on and his makeup, and incredible performance. But yeah, I couldn't see his name, babe, and I'm not stoked. And I thought, okay, supporting, but they didn't post that yet. So anyway,
we'll
keep posted. But he deserves so many awards. And it's really a testament to like his skills, because for such a big portion of that film, he's saying much. It's all about that embodiment. So
I think the dance really added to that, because he does move with the grace of a dancer. I wanted to, because you made me think of this when you said he was mostly silent. The one scene that I love is just before Victor blows the whole place up, and he says, just say one word to make me think you're different. Nothing. And then as he walks away, the creature says it so tauntingly, just, Elizabeth.
I know.
You really get like chills and just a moment of, okay, this creature, this being is sentient. It knows what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
But more than that, he's capable of taunting.
Yes.
Because that was a taunt.
And where did he learn that from? It's just that was incredible as well, because he kept it to himself. It was like, I think Victor turns around like he sort of heard it, but
I always saw it as he heard it and then just decided to ignore it because he recognized the taunt, and it was like, this woman who I want to own and this woman I want to control and to be mine has chosen not just my brother, but this creature that I am, that I find horrific, this creation of mine that has nothing of me in it.
Yes, and he knows that Elizabeth has that kindness and love for him, and not for Victor. And it's just, he goes, oh, okay, this creature maybe is more intelligent than I thought, but because he has that connection, that thread to this other object that I'd like to own, I need to sever ties. Goodbye. It's just so brutal. I really, I truly did blank out how much Victor is just such a
very abusive parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot that he parrots that is like, don't be afraid of me, I'm your maker. That ownership. And, throughout this conversation, I was going back to it. And initially I thought there is like a romantic thread between the creature and Elizabeth. But the more I look back on it, it's so motherly.
Yeah.
It's the way that she teaches him to say her name, how she, lets him learn. And even her monologue at the end, I can, she's in a wedding dress, she's bleeding out, he's carried her to, safety and isolation and just the two of them. Her monologue can be read as romantic. I've been looking for something and I've never found it anywhere. But it's also so maternal.
Yeah, it's again coming back to that Oedipal complex, but definitely, and I did see a lot of interpretations around, why couldn't they end up together? Which,
You don't.
bless Gen
That's
Z.
not how gothic
Yeah,
horror works.
I love them. I love that they just want them to end up together. But it's so much more about that um, unbiased, unconditional love that she just immediately had for him as a mother would, ideally. It's just she just like that blind man, like she just saw him where he was, who he was to his, soul. If we're going back to that sort of gothic fiction, it's all about, spiritualism and emotions. And yeah, she just was absolutely just, it didn't feel explicitly romantic to me. It was just much more tender.
And realistically, the only notion of romantic is Victor accusing her of attraction to it. She kind of scoffs and it's like, you don't understand.
Yes. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to connect the dots in my head as we speak, but Victor, his mother, he doesn't have that relationship anymore. And so even if he recognized that the creature and Elizabeth's love is maternal, that's still something that would
It's so
plague
alien
him.
to him.
Yeah, but he wants that. He covets that. So he also will not allow that to happen either. Yeah, just so much insecurity.
I think there's so much depth to the text that I feel like we could talk about it for hours. I think, you mentioned Com
387.
387.
Yes. So
what did I do? That was 382.
Is that the gothic fiction one?
No, gothic fiction is English 302. Maybe that's where the two come from.
Okay, yep. But yeah, either way, if you're Com 387 is currently running, I'm not sure when the English unit's running, but if you're interested in this kind of stuff, in picking apart these debates, they are really, you want to look down those avenues. So much fun. So many rich texts just like this. So yeah, I would highly recommend. And I might end up marking your papers
there you
as
go.
well.
Right one on Frankenstein.
Yeah, right.
And yeah,
absolutely.
English 302 is the gothic fiction unit in the English department, which Frankenstein, when I did it, Frankenstein was one of the texts that we studied. So was Dracula and The Hunter by Julia Lee. They may have updated, but I feel like Frankenstein it's the gothic text.
It is, although I do love Dracula. I read Dracula many more times because I found that really spooky. But I do wonder now, in our year of the Lord 2025,
soon to be 2026.
Far out. God. Yeah, good point. If Frankenstein would also freak me out just as much.
I'll have to go back and give it a reread.
Totally.
And see what happens. And look, like we were saying throughout this, if you have seen the film, you have read the books, let us know your thoughts. You can reach out to us at tunefm at une.edu.au. We would, really love to hear more. And if there's a text that you want to hear Bridgette and I cover, maybe we'll start something of a series. And
oh my gosh, bring it on.
Absolutely.
Just let me talk about film and TV with Ash, guys. Let it happen.
Let us know if you're interested. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining me for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure as always.
Absolutely. You're listening to 106.9 Tune FM.